Noah opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He was frozen, a rabbit caught in a snake's gaze. Tate, without a word, reached out. His hands, strong and steady, went to Noah's waist, lifting him effortlessly from his feet. Before Noah could react, Tate's hands were underneath his t-shirt, his fingers splayed across Noah's stomach. Noah gasped, his eyes widening in surprise. He could feel Tate's fingers, cool against his skin, tracing patterns on his stomach. He could feel Tate's breath, hot and ragged, against his neck. Tate leaned in, his lips pressing against Noah's cheek. It was not a chaste peck but a passionate, claiming kiss that spoke of possession and longing. It was a kiss that said, "You are mine and I will not let you go." It was a kiss that left Susie and Andrew staring in disbelief, their drinks forgotten, their hearts pounding in their chests. The music around them seemed to fade away, the laughter and chatter of the party replaced by the sound of their own hearts beating in sync. Tate's hands on Noah's stomach felt warm, his fingers tracing circles on Noah's skin. Noah, still in shock, felt a blush creep up his neck, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum in his ears. Ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum echoed through him, drowning out everything else. When Tate finally pulled back, his hands still underneath Noah's shirt, his gaze fell on Andrew. "Be a dear and get me a drink," he said, his tone flat, commanding, like Andrew was a minor inconvenience rather than a person. "Thanks for saving me the chair you're in. You can move now, thank you." Bree whispered, incredulous. Did he just talk to Andrew like that, like was Andrew furniture? Susie laughed softly, still watching Tate's every move. "Yeah, he's basically treating Andrew like an accessory, and Noah, oh my god, Noah is lucky but scared too, right?" Anna nodded, her voice teasing. "Noah, you're glowing, I can't tell if it's fear or desire, probably both." Jack muttered under his breath, leaning toward Andrew. "Man, that's ruthless and sexy, that's some next-level alpha behavior. You can feel the control he has just by standing there." Andrew exhaled, a mix of frustration and awe. I didn't expect that. He's so cold and commanding, and yet, I can't look away." Bree giggled again. "Cold, commanding, untouchable, but let's be real, he's the hottest guy I've ever seen in person. The way he looked at Noah, I'd melt." Susie nudged Noah, whispering conspiratorially, "See what you've got? That's why you don't let anyone else near him. He's yours and he knows it." Anna smirked, leaning back with crossed arms. "I wouldn't even try to compete. He's literally untouchable, but he's absolutely obsessed with you. That's terrifying and perfect all at once." Jack chuckled softly. "And Andrew, wow, he just got put in his place like a pawn on a chessboard, but damn, if I were Andrew I'd be simultaneously annoyed and, well, I'd be ruined." The friends' voices bubbled with gossip, admiration, and a little fear, all underlined with a buzzing excitement. Tate's presence dominated the table, the room, and the conversation, and Noah's friends couldn't stop whispering, judging, and marveling at every subtle gesture, every precise word, and every magnetic move he made. Tate finally settled beside Noah, his body close enough that every friend at the table could see the intensity between them. He wrapped his hands around Noah's chest, pulling him firmly against himself, an unspoken claim that left no room for doubt. Even in Gucci clothing that screamed sophistication, there was no mistaking the way Tate kept a hand or foot in contact with Noah, a tether that radiated possession. Everyone at the table noticed immediately. Bree's eyes widened, Susie whispered under her breath, and Anna leaned in closer, clearly fascinated. There was no personal space for Tate and Noah, they were almost a single entity, so intertwined that it made the rest of the room seem irrelevant. Bree whispered, leaning toward Susie, barely audible over the music. "Look at them, no space at all, he's literally glued to him, that's intense." Susie nodded, smirking. "Intense is one word, I'd say terrifying and amazing. He's not letting go ever. Look at that hand on his chest. Every single person can see who owns whom." Anna shook her head slightly, whispering with a smile, "Noah looks like he's melting, but he's lucky. Most people wouldn't survive that kind of intensity without fainting." Jack leaned closer, eyes darting between Tate and Noah. "And the way Tate's holding him, it's like a show of dominance and affection at the same time. You can feel the power shift just by watching." Andrew returned from the bar with a drink, handing it to Tate carefully. Tate took it with a supercilious tilt of his chin, barely acknowledging Andrew's presence, but the subtle glance said enough. He was humoring Noah by interacting with his friends at all, and Andrew felt it acutely. Andrew muttered under his breath, leaning back slightly. Yeah, he's barely acknowledging me, he's humoring me just because Noah's here, otherwise I'm invisible. Tate's gaze suddenly flicked across the room and landed on a girl leaning against the bar. Without a word to anyone at the table, without acknowledging even the room buzzing with attention, he let go of Noah just enough to slide past, moving with the same effortless, magnetic swagger that had left everyone mesmerized earlier. Before disappearing into the crowd, he leaned back toward Noah, brushing his lips briefly against his temple, a silent, intimate claim that said everything without words. A moment later, Tate was gone, disappearing into the crowd of party guests. Noah exhaled softly, a flush rising in his cheeks. Once he's gone like that, I murmured, you realize this is exactly how he finds his amusement tonight. Bree leaned toward Susie, whispering urgently, did you see that? Tate didn't even look at anyone else, just Noah and that kiss. Wow. Susie's eyes gleamed, half teasing, half awed. Classic Tate, all eyes are on him, but only Noah gets the personal stuff and Tate's attention. The rest of us are background noise and unimportant to Tate. Anna tilted her head, smirking, whispering to Jack. He's enjoying himself, but on his terms. He's making a game out of it. Everyone watches, but he decides what matters, and Noah's the prize. Jack chuckled softly, whispering back, yeah, everyone else is just scenery, and that kiss, that's him marking the territory without even trying. Andrew sighed, shaking his head. I knew he was ruthless, but damn, that's cold, precise, and kind of brilliant. He humors the room, makes them watch, but Noah, he owns Noah completely. Bree whispered again, her voice low and odd. It's insane, he could charm anyone, but he chose Noah. The control, the attention, the amusement, it's all deliberate. Susie smirked, leaning closer to Noah. Lucky you, everyone else is drooling and gossiping, but he only cares about you. That's terrifying and incredible. Anna nodded, voice soft. He's like a storm passing through. Everyone else feels the wind, but Noah is the eye, calm, claimed, untouchable. At exactly 8, Tate returned to the table. His hair was a mess, strands falling carelessly across his forehead, giving him that reckless, irresistible look that made every head in the room turn. Without a word to anyone else, he smirked and lowered himself onto Noah's lap, resting his head there as if it were the most natural place in the world. The audacity of the gesture made the air thrum with tension, and Noah's breath hitched slightly at the contact, heat spreading from the closeness. Tate's voice was low, almost mischievous, yet crisp and commanding. She was a great fuck. The rest of the girls at this sorry excuse for a party are dogs. I'm exhausted, so I'm heading back to our dorm to get some sleep. I'll see you in an hour, don't keep me waiting, Noe. Tate rose from his chair and sauntered out of the party with an air of effortless confidence, his posture practically saying, why did I even come to this? It's so far beneath me. Every step carried the quiet arrogance that seemed to define him. All of Noah's friends watched Tate's retreating figure in stunned silence. Bree's eyes went wide, whispering to Susie, did he just say that, and put his head on Noah's lap like it's nothing. Susie grinned wickedly, nudging Bree. Oh yes, he said it, and the way he just plopped on Noah like that, it's terrifyingly sexy, he owns him completely. Anna shook her head, muttering under her breath, I can't even. The audacity, the confidence, the messiness in the hair, the way he speaks, and the head in the lap, unreal. Jack whispered, half laughing, half awed, did anyone else hear that? She was a great, oh God. And the head in the lap, he's shameless, and somehow it works, I'm destroyed. Andrew exhaled slowly, a mix of disbelief and admiration, muttering, of course he's messy, of course he's smirking, and of course he's saying that to Noah. But he's interesting, complex. There's more under that cold, supercilious exterior than anyone realizes. Bree leaned forward again, whispering conspiratorially, and the way he just rests his head there like it's casual ownership. Casual ownership. My brain can't process this level of dominance and intimacy. Susie chuckled, nudging Noah softly, you are officially claimed. Everyone else can go home, he's yours, and he's making sure you all know it. Anna tilted her head, whispering, he's brutal, he's shameless, he's magnetic, and he just made the rest of the room irrelevant. Everyone else, background. Jack shook his head, still whispering, he's like a hurricane wrapped around Noah, unstoppable, destructive, and completely intoxicating. Andrew finally muttered, staring at the pair, I get it, I've been watching him all night and this seals it. He humors the room, he dismisses everyone and Noah is the epicenter of his chaos. But I keep thinking, there's a depth there, a complexity. He's not just this dominating force, he's layered and I can't stop trying to figure him out. Bree sighed audibly, whispering, I can't believe anyone can be this precise with their domination and desire at the same time. It's unfair. Susie laughed quietly, her eyes still glued to them. And he knows it, that smirk, that hair, that head in the lap. He's having fun and we're all just spectators. 2 weeks later, Noah's friends arrived at Noah's dorm expecting a casual visit, only to be met with a shocking scene. Tate was asleep nude, draped over Noah as though claiming every inch of him, their bodies entwined in a way that made the air in the room feel taut, which was a normal behavior. Noah shifted nervously on the bed, scrambling to pull on clothes while his friends gawked, half amused, half stunned. The intimacy and audacity of Tate's behavior were impossible to ignore, leaving a mix of awe, confusion, and concern hanging over the group. Bree whispered, leaning towards Susie and Anna, eyes wide. Oh my God, he's on top of Noah, bare, like completely claiming him. Is this real? Emotionally, I'm sold at least. Susie smirked, biting her lip, eyes glued to the scene. Real? Who cares? This is classic Tate. He owns the space, he owns Noah, and he doesn't care what anyone else thinks. Look at him, total audacity. Anna shook her head, voice low and incredulous. I can't even. The intimacy, the dominance. He's not just possessive, he's invasive in the most deliberate way possible, and Noah's just letting it happen. He's completely enmeshed. Jack leaned back, hands in his pockets, muttering, insane, totally insane, and yet mesmerizing. He's controlling, intoxicating, and ruthless all at once. Noah's living in a hurricane. Andrew, standing by the doorway, let out a slow breath, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Interesting, complex. There's more under that cold, untouchable surface than anyone realizes. Even sleeping like this, nude and dominating, there's strategy, intensity, and deliberate intimacy. He's not simple. Noah, cheeks flushed, finally dressed, and the group moved to a nearby cafe. As soon as they sat, questions poured out like a torrent. Bree leaned forward, pointing at Noah. Okay, seriously, what is even happening here? Does Tate always act like this level of extremity? Do you sleep together like that every night? How does one even function with that intensity? Susie smirked, resting her chin on her hand. Extreme is one word, possessive, dominant, obsessive, and somehow he's the most magnetic person you've ever described. Poor Noah, bombarded with everything, history, behavior, intensity. Start talking. Anna laughed, voice teasing but curious. And the nude sleeping on top thing, that's next level. How do you even cope? Every inch of him is claiming you. This is a nightmare and a fantasy at the same time. At the cafe, surrounded by the low hum of conversation and the clinking of coffee cups, Noah finally took a deep breath. His friends leaned in, sensing that he was about to reveal something more personal than any story he had shared before. Okay, he said slowly, voice tight but steady, I've slept with Tate since I was 4. The words hung in the air, heavy and shocking, and his friend's eyes widened in disbelief. Bree blinked rapidly, trying to process. Wait, 4? That's insane. What does that even mean? Susie leaned closer, voice low and incredulous. You mean, he's been with you since? Wow, Noah, wow. Noah ran a hand over his face, trying to stay calm. It's complicated. Tate has rules I've had to follow. Our relationship, it's not friendship. I'm not his friend. He has many lovers, girlfriends, people he sees, and yet, I'm the only one who sleeps in his bed. Anna's mouth fell open slightly, whispering, so he has a whole life outside of you, and yet, this exclusive thing, are you only in his bed? That's intense, possessive, controlling, but somehow, I don't know, protective. Jack shook his head slowly, muttering, this is completely beyond anything I've ever imagined, and Noah's not even his friend. He's something else entirely, a special something. It's wild. Andrew leaned back, eyes thoughtful, voice quiet. Complex. That explains so much, the obsession, the intensity, the dominance, the way he humors the world but claims you entirely. It's deliberate, calculated, layered, even morally complicated. Bree's voice was tight with incredulity. Noah, that's not normal, not at all, and yet you're, okay, how have you survived all this? You've handled rules, obsession, multiple lovers, and somehow still, she trailed off, unsure how to finish. Susie nudged him, smirking, still glowing, thriving, or, broken but loyal, I can't tell and I'm scared to ask. Noah exhaled slowly, nodding, I've survived, I've adapted. Tate's rules, they're strict, sometimes terrifying, but there's also a bond, a pattern. He only sleeps in my bed. He's complicated, but he's mine in this way. Everyone else's background, I'm the constant. That's the way it's always been. Anna tilted her head, voice low, analytical. So he's possessive, controlling, obsessive, and yet, he lets you endure, lets you exist alongside all his other lovers, and he only allows this sanctuary in your bed. That's almost psychological in a way, a power dynamic, total dominance. Jack muttered, half in awe, half disturbed, it's like a kingdom with its own rules and you're the throne in a sense, not a friend, not a lover, something more essential. Andrew finally spoke, voice quiet but deliberate. And that's why he's fascinating. He's cold, ruthless, selfish in one sense, yet the way he treats you, claims you exclusively in that bed, is deliberate, precise. That's the layer beneath the hurricane. That's why he's so complex. And why, Noah, you're completely caught up in it. Bree whispered, almost incredulously, I can't believe someone can orchestrate a life like that, and have a buddy so devoted. I mean, he's terrifying, but you're alive, thriving, and wow. Noah lifted his club sandwich, fork poised, and squirted a generous stream of lemon over it, wrinkling his nose slightly at the tangy zing. I know it looks weird, he admitted, but Tate likes it when I try odd food combinations. He says it keeps me unpredictable. He eats strange things himself, pickles and ice cream, lemon sauce in cereal, stuff like that. He laughed softly, shaking his head. His friends leaned in, eyes wide, some suppressing giggles, all captivated by the peculiar details of Tate's life. Andrew made a weird face but drank his tea. Bree leaned forward, whispering in mock disbelief, pickles in ice cream, lemon sauce in cereal, that's grotesque, and you're okay with this. Susie smirked, nudging Noah, hey, if it's his thing, I guess you survive, but come on, this is beyond eccentric, that's some next-level obsession with flavor. And with you. Anna tilted her head, voice low, intrigued. And the way he treats you, you said he considers you his favorite person? That explains a lot, the intensity, the exclusivity. You're his benchmark, the constant in his chaos. Noah nodded, cheeks flushing slightly. Yeah, favorite person, he makes it clear, and he bought me a luxury car recently. He paused as his friends gasped audibly, the cafe suddenly feeling too small for their astonishment. Jack whistled softly, leaning back. Wait, those luxury models cost at least $100,000, that's insane. That's literally insane. Noah set down his fork, taking a slow breath before he added, voice tight but steady, Tate has dragged me to bed my whole life, every single time, and when I once locked him out he didn't leave, he just slept on my door like Pepe Le Pew. His friends burst into uncontrollable laughter, some nearly spilling their coffee, clutching their stomachs, unable to process the absurdity and audacity of the image. Bree wiped tears from her eyes, giggling uncontrollably. No way, he actually did that, like sleeping on your door waiting for you, that is insane and kind of adorable. Susie doubled over, voice full of laughter. Pepe Le Pew, you're not kidding, this is beyond obsession, beyond intense, I can't stop laughing. Anna leaned back, smirking, shaking her head. Obsessed, relentless, and somehow charming, who does that? Only Tate. Jack's shoulders shook as he whispered between laughs, that's psychotic and yet ridiculously funny. I can't stop imagining him snoozing like a cartoon skunk outside your door. Andrew, sitting quietly with a careful, neutral expression, took a slow sip of his tea and muttered, it's not funny, it's deliberate. He's signaling possession, testing boundaries, and establishing control. Everything about that act, absurd as it seems, is precise and intentional. Bree glanced at him, eyebrows raised, whispering, Andrew, come on, this is hilarious. You're the only one not laughing. Andrew shook his head slightly, expression thoughtful. I don't need to laugh, I understand the psychology here. This is dominance disguised as absurdity and obsession that communicates his claim over Noah. It's calculated, not comic. Susie nudged Noah with a grin. Poor Noah, living with a man who's simultaneously terrifying, ridiculous, and impossible to resist. And Andrew's analyzing it like a thesis. Noah pushed his half-eaten sandwich aside, cheeks still flushed, and continued, voice low but matter-of-fact. We used to shower together until Tate was 15. And he lets me wear his expensive coats like $5,000 jackets. Around other people he's different, cold, emotionless, sexy, and desirable, but alone with me he's sweet like a teddy bear. He's prickly to strangers, always on edge, and doesn't really have friends. Just hookups, people he's with temporarily. Tate's reckless, hates authority, loves vulgar language, is touchy-feely, obsessed with me, controlling. He loves hugs, can't stop touching me, that's Tate. Bree leaned forward, eyes wide. Wait, shower together and you wear his $5,000 coats? Noah, this is, wow, that's insane and kind of adorable. Susie smirked, nudging him. Adorable and terrifying, teddy bear around people, prickly otherwise, and hookups instead of friends. Poor Noah, living with a storm in human form. Anna tilted her head, whispering, reckless, hates authority. That explains so much. The intensity, the obsession, the unpredictability. He's a hurricane that somehow wraps you in warmth and chaos simultaneously. Jack shook his head, muttering under his breath. Vulgar, touchy-feely, obsessive, and yet you're thriving, or at least surviving. I can't tell if you're terrified or enchanted. Next Friday we went dancing, lights flickering and music vibrating through the floor. Tate came with us, immediately commanding attention without moving much. He doesn't dance, never has, but tonight his eyes were locked on Noah, every movement calculated, and he pulls the blonde toward the dance floor. While dancing he wrapped his arms around Noah as we swayed to the music. Not just a casual embrace, arms locked tight, pressing Noah's torso to his chest, hands gripping firmly at the waist and shoulders. Noah's head rested against Tate's shoulder, Tate's face nuzzled into Noah's neck, and the intensity was palpable. Their bodies moved together in perfect sync, utterly isolated from everyone else despite the crowd. There wasn't an inch of space between them, they were clutching each other, tangled, intimate, possessive. Noah and Tate swayed together on the dance floor in a slow, unmistakably platonic dance. There wasn't so much as a sliver of space between them. They barely moved, gently shifting their weight from one foot to the other. At times, they stood completely still, content simply to remain in each other's presence as the music played around them. Bree whispered to Anna, voice low and awed, look at them, every inch of Noah pressed against Tate. It's insane, that grip, that closeness. It's more than just dancing, it's claiming, staking possession. Anna tilted her head, murmuring, and the way they sway, like they're alone in the room, no one else exists. It's intimate, obsessive. You can feel it radiating off them. He's not letting anyone near Noah. Jack muttered, half in disbelief, half in awe. It's like watching a storm and its eye at the same time, terrifyingly intense but hypnotic. They're clutching each other like they can't exist apart. And everyone else, invisible. Susie whispered, smirking, and watch how he handles anyone else who comes close. A hand reaches for Noah's shoulder. Gone, leaning in to touch him, blocked, every move calculated, every touch intentional, possessive and obsessive all in one. Bree leaned closer to Noah, whispering softly, you're literally encased in him. Arms, chest, face, no room to breathe, and you're moving with it, smiling. Noah exhaled, voice low, cheeks flushing, yeah, he's possessive, but this is how it's always been, close, no space, he likes it, I like it, it's us. Andrew, still calm and analytical, observed quietly, muttering, this is deliberate. Every press of the body, every lock of arms, every nuzzle into the neck, control and intimacy fused. It communicates ownership, obsession, and dominance. That's why it's so intense. As the final song began, Tate surprised everyone by taking the lead. He spun Noah beneath his arm, twirling him with effortless confidence before pulling him back in. The two moved across the dance floor in perfect sync. Tate lifted Noah briefly off the ground, earning a chorus of gasps, then lowered him into a dramatic dip so close to the floor that it looked impossible before smoothly bringing him back into his embrace. During the flourish, the top button of Tate's shirt slipped open, though he seemed completely oblivious to it. Every conversation in the room died away as all eyes followed the pair. Their graceful movements, unwavering trust in one another, and the unmistakable closeness of their lifelong friendship had become the center of attention. Even those who had dismissed Tate as cold or aloof couldn't look away from the performance unfolding before them. Back at the restaurant later that night, the same pattern continued. Susie leaned across the table to touch Noah's arm while reaching for a plate, and Tate's hand shot out instantly, pushing her fingers away with a sharp scowl. Andrew, sitting next to Noah, tried a casual gesture, adjusting Noah's napkin or resting a hand lightly on his shoulder, and again Tate reacted immediately, swatting his hand aside and narrowing his eyes. Bree whispered to Anna, voice low, "Look at that. Every time someone tries to touch him, Tate just pushes them away, like Noah is untouchable unless Tate allows it." Anna leaned in, observing quietly. "It's obsessive but deliberate. He doesn't just react, he enforces his boundaries, makes it physically clear who Noah belongs to, possessive, controlling, and unyielding." Susie, laughing nervously, muttered, "He's so blatant." Poor Andrew completely ignored, arms off Noah instantly, and that scowl, terrifyingly obvious. Jack shook his head, whispering, "Obsessive, possessive, and effective." Noah doesn't even flinch, he's completely wrapped up in Tate. It's like watching a live demonstration of total control. Bree leaned closer to Noah, whispering softly, "You're physically protected and controlled. Every move, every touch is monitored. That's intense, and you just sit there." Noah exhaled, cheeks warm, shrugging slightly. "Yeah, it's him. He doesn't want anyone else touching me, friends, lovers, no one, only him, always only him." Whenever one of Noah's friends reached out to pat his shoulder, ruffle his hair, touch his arm, or poke his cheek, Tate would calmly but consistently guide their hand away from Noah's personal space. He never raised his voice or made a scene, he simply intervened with quiet persistence. After a while, Noah's friends caught on. They learned that if they wanted to hug Noah, they should do it at the beginning or end of a meal when Tate wasn't sitting right beside him. During the meal itself, they kept a respectful distance. Tate never explained his behavior, he simply didn't like other people touching Noah. December 23, 1986. Noah and Tate had just finished the first semester of their freshman year at Brown University. As they had promised, the two friends returned home to Los Angeles for Christmas. After taking 2 flights from Rhode Island, they landed at LAX a few hours before dinner. Noah had carefully packed the Christmas gifts he had bought during the semester into his suitcase, while Tate, who was more experienced behind the wheel, volunteered to drive the rental car home. Talia had apologized for not being able to meet them at the airport. The house was already full of relatives preparing for Christmas and she was too busy to leave. Tate had assured her it wasn't a problem and told her not to worry. As expected, traffic leaving LAX was relentless. Cars crawled along the congested freeways, turning what should have been a short drive into an hour-long journey. By the time Tate finally pulled into the driveway, the late afternoon sun was beginning to fade and Christmas at home had officially begun. Tate knocked on the front door of his childhood home. The door flew open almost immediately. "There you two are," his godfather Linus exclaimed with a broad grin. "Took you long enough, boys, come on in, dinner's ready and it smells incredible." The familiar warmth of the house washed over Noah and Tate as they stepped inside. Laughter echoed through the rooms while relatives chatted in every corner. The dining room table was already overflowing with food. Talia had purchased a beautifully roasted chicken as the centerpiece, and the caterers had prepared enough side dishes and desserts to feed a small army. The holiday gathering carried a bittersweet note. Aunt Julia had passed away 2 months earlier and her absence was deeply felt by everyone. Talia had placed a framed photograph of Julia at the center of the table, surrounded by a few candles and fresh flowers, so it felt as though she was still sharing Christmas dinner with the family. Before greeting the rest of the guests, Tate quietly crossed the room to Julia's husband, Uncle Tim. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Tate said sincerely. Tim gave him a grateful smile and rested a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, Tate. Julia would have been so happy to see you and Noah home for Christmas." Julia's death had come as a terrible shock to the entire family. She had suffered a massive stroke while riding in a taxi and passed away only a short time later. The doctors believed she had not been in any significant pain, a small comfort amid such an overwhelming loss. Noah had received the phone call while Tate was attending his American history class at Brown. Breaking the news to Tate afterward was one of the hardest conversations Noah had ever had. Julia's funeral had been a beautiful tribute to her life. So many people attended that it seemed as though half of Los Angeles had come to pay their respects. Friends, business associates, community leaders, and many well-known figures whose lives she had touched filled the service, offering their condolences to the family. In her will, Julia left her estate and assets to Tate. Because he was still a college freshman and not yet prepared to manage such a large inheritance, the assets were placed under Terrence's control in accordance with the family's estate plan. Terrence would oversee the property and finances until the time came for Tate to inherit them directly. Throughout the Christmas celebration, Linus seemed to spend more time with Tate than anyone else. Every chance he got, he pulled his godson aside to ask about Brown, his classes, and life on the East Coast. The two laughed over old family stories, discussed current events, and reminisced about Tate's childhood. Although nearly 50 relatives and family friends filled the house, Linus always seemed to find his way back to Tate's side. Christmas Eve dinner the following evening was just as lively. The house buzzed with conversation, music, and laughter as relatives exchanged stories and children hurried between the living room and the dining room. It was a warm, joyful holiday despite the family's recent loss. Tate had thoughtfully purchased more than a dozen Christmas gifts for his family. He had also arranged for several presents to be delivered to Noah's spot under the blue tree before Christmas morning, wanting to surprise his lifelong companion. Noah's gifts for Tate were fewer in number but deeply personal. He had bought Tate a trip to Australia, which they had talked about taking together, along with a designer bag Tate had admired for months but never purchased for himself. The final gift was the most meaningful of all, a hand-woven, homemade bracelet Noah had carefully crafted after attending one of Anna's jewelry-making classes. It wasn't expensive, but every knot and bead represented years of intimate closeness, making it the gift Noah hoped Tate would treasure the most. 3 months later, during the spring of 1987, Noah and Tate returned to Los Angeles to celebrate Tate's 19th birthday. Tate was especially excited because, as part of his family's estate plan, he was scheduled to inherit another 10% of his inheritance. The Blue family was quietly preparing a surprise birthday celebration for him, though no one was quite sure where Tate had wandered off to inside the mansion. Talia invited Noah into the family's spacious kitchen to help finalize the party plans. "I'm thinking blue and silver decorations," Talia said, spreading party catalogs across the kitchen island. "And I still can't decide whether Tate would prefer a chocolate cake or a vanilla one." Noah smiled as they discussed decorations, the guest list, and the menu. The house was calm and unusually peaceful. Then, crash! A deafening bang echoed through the mansion, followed by the sound of something slamming into a wall on the 3rd floor. Noah froze. Talia's smile vanished. The two exchanged alarmed glances as muffled shouting drifted down the hallway. "It came from upstairs," Noah said quietly. Talia nodded, her expression filled with confusion. "That doesn't make any sense." The voices sounded like Joey and Linus. Neither of them could remember either man ever getting into a serious argument. The Blue family prided itself on resolving disagreements calmly, and shouting was almost unheard of. Whatever had happened upstairs was completely out of character. Without another word, Noah and Talia rushed toward the staircase, hoping to find out what had caused the commotion and where Tate was. Before Noah or Talia could take a single step up the staircase, Terrence appeared at the top of the stairs. He leaned casually against the banister with an amused smile, looking far calmer than either of them expected. "It's all right," he called down. "They're just roughhousing, nothing to be alarmed about." Noah frowned. That sounded like someone went through a wall. Terrence chuckled and shrugged. "They probably did. Joey and Linus get a little carried away every once in a while. It's just friendly fighting. They'll wear themselves out in a minute." Talia let out a relieved sigh, though she still looked skeptical. "You two are going to give me a heart attack one of these days," she muttered, shaking her head. Terrence laughed. "Don't worry, guys will be guys." The muffled voices upstairs had already begun to quiet down, convincing Noah that Terrence was probably right. With one last glance toward the 3rd floor, he turned back toward the kitchen, hoping the rest of Tate's birthday preparations would be far less eventful. Tate's surprise birthday party went off without a hitch. Family and friends filled the mansion with laughter, conversation, and music as everyone celebrated his 19th birthday. The gifts were opened, the cake was served, and for the most part, the evening felt perfectly ordinary. The only thing that seemed out of place was that Linus left without anyone seeing him leave before dinner and the party. When a few curious relatives asked what had happened, Uncle Joey answered with a vague explanation. Linus and I had a disagreement over a business proposal he decided to move forward with, Joey explained. I believed it created a conflict of interest and raised some ethical concerns. The discussion became more heated than either of us intended. I think he's a little embarrassed about the whole thing, Joey added. We've already put it behind us. A short time later, Tate quietly excused himself and left the room early. Tate was taking a shower after the party, which Noah thought was unusual. Tate almost never showered this late unless something was bothering him. Concerned, Noah climbed the stairs to the 4th floor and knocked lightly before opening the bedroom door. "Hey Tate," Noah called toward the adjoining bathroom. "You tired?" A loud yelp came from behind the shower curtain. "Geez, Noah," Tate shouted, clearly startled. "You scared the life out of me." "Sorry," Noah said, "I was just checking in on you." "I'm fine," Tate replied in a gruff voice. "I just don't like birthdays." Noah gave a small nod. "Could we talk for a minute?" From behind the shower curtain, Tate continued washing his hair. "If we must," he muttered. Noah sat down on the closed toilet lid, folding his hands together. "I tried to talk your mom out of throwing a surprise party," Noah admitted. "She was just so happy about it." "I know how much you hate birthdays, Tate." "It's fine," Tate said flatly. "It really doesn't matter." The words sounded empty, as though he was trying to convince himself more than Noah. An awkward silence settled over the bathroom, broken only by the steady hiss of the shower. "I'll go," Noah said quietly. Tate didn't answer. Noah rose from the toilet, gave the bathroom one last glance and quietly left, pulling the door shut behind him. As Noah stepped out of the bathroom, he walked straight into Uncle Joey's chest. "Easy there, kid," Joey said with a chuckle, ruffling Noah's hair. "Where's the birthday boy?" Noah pointed toward the closed bathroom door. "In the shower." "Oh," Joey smiled knowingly. "I bet he had a lot of fun tonight, huh?" Noah forced a faint smile but didn't answer. "I'm only here until tomorrow afternoon," Joey continued. "Then I've got to fly back to Venezuela." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. "But before I go, I brought you a little trinket." Joey opened the pouch and revealed a silver necklace with an intricately crafted pendant. "It's genuine silver," Joey said proudly. "I picked it up at one of the museums while I was down there. I thought you'd appreciate it." The bathroom door swung open with a bang and Tate stepped out, nearly colliding with Joey and Noah. "Sorry if I took too long," Tate said, glancing between them. "I thought there was a line for the bathroom." "Oh, we weren't waiting," Joey said cheerfully. "I was just giving Noah a little trinket I brought back from Venezuela." Tate's eyes flicked briefly to the silver necklace in Noah's hand. His expression remained unreadable. Without another word, he turned, walked into his bedroom and slammed the door behind him. Joey let out a small laugh. "I think the birthday boy's a little peaky." Noah frowned but stayed silent. "He always gets this way on his birthday," Joey continued with a shrug. "He probably didn't get the gift he wanted and now he's pouting." Joey grinned. "He's 19, they're moody." He gave Noah a friendly pat on the shoulder. "Have a good night, okay?" Before Noah could respond, Joey stepped into the bathroom and quietly shut the door behind him. Noah remained in the hallway, staring at Tate's closed bedroom door. Somehow he knew this wasn't about birthday presents at all. The first year of college ended faster than any of us expected. One moment, we were saying goodbye to professors, packing our dorm rooms and promising our friends we'd stay in touch. Next, we were back in Los Angeles for the summer of 1987, settling into familiar routines as though the previous 9 months had been a dream. The mansion felt exactly as it always had. The mornings were quiet. The afternoons were warm. The evenings were usually spent watching old movies, eating dinner together, or talking about what the next school year might bring. For a while, everything seemed normal. Then the mail arrived. Like he did almost every afternoon, Tate sorted through the stack of envelopes that had been left on the entry table. Most of it was unremarkable. Bank statements, advertisements, catalogs, letters addressed to his parents. Then one envelope caught his attention. The return address bore the unmistakable seal of Brown University. Tate frowned. "That's odd." He turned the envelope over in his hands. It wasn't addressed to Noah. It was addressed to him. Curious, Tate slipped a finger beneath the flap and opened it. Inside was a check. His eyebrows knitted together. It was the exact amount he had paid toward Noah's first year of tuition. What? He unfolded the accompanying letter. The letterhead matched the university's finance office. His eyes scanned the page. Dear Mr. Tate Blue. Enclosed is the reimbursement you requested. Our records indicate that your payment was received after the student's tuition balance had already been satisfied. Tate's expression hardened. He continued reading. The original payment had already been completed by a gentleman whose first name is listed as Mark. Because the account balance had been paid in full before your payment was processed, your payment has been reversed. Thank you for your understanding. Tate read the letter again. Then a third time. Each pass made the words feel heavier. Mark. The first-year tuition had already been paid. Not by him. By Mark. His grip on the paper tightened until the edges crumpled beneath his fingers. A strange mixture of disbelief and anger settled in his chest. For nearly a year, he'd believed he'd quietly taken care of Noah's tuition. The reimbursement check remained in Tate's hand as the silence stretched across the room. Finally, Noah spoke. There's something else you should know. Tate looked up. Mark's payment was processed 3 days before, Noah hesitated, before your little tantrum when you tore up his check. Tate's jaw tightened. He wired the tuition directly to the university before the deadline. By the time you tried to pay, my account had already been settled. Tate didn't answer. I found out later, Noah continued. The university told me your payment had come in after Mark's. They said they'd be sending your money back. You never told me, Tate said quietly. No. Why not? Noah took a deep breath. Because I'd already made my decision. Tate stared at him. I had accepted Mark's help, that was my choice. You let me believe I'd paid your tuition. I did. Why? Because I knew how strongly you felt about it. Noah's voice remained calm. And because I also knew that if I argued with you, we'd end up having this exact conversation anyway. Tate folded his arms. You should have corrected me. I didn't because I wanted you to respect the decision I'd already made. The words landed harder than Noah intended. You wanted to pay for my education, and I know you were doing it because you care about me. Noah smiled sadly. I've never doubted that. But I also wanted you to understand something. Tate remained silent. Sometimes I'm allowed to ask other people for help. I'm allowed to make decisions about my own life. I wanted to accept Mark's help. It wasn't because I cared about you any less. It was because it was my decision to make. The room fell quiet. Tate's expression darkened. I didn't like your decision. I know. I still don't. I know. Noah stepped a little closer. I wasn't choosing Mark over you. I was choosing for myself. I needed you to respect that, even if you disagreed with it. For a long moment, Tate didn't move. Then, without another word, he turned sharply, marched out of the bedroom, and slammed the door so hard the picture frames on the hallway wall rattled. Noah closed his eyes. I was afraid of that, he murmured. The disagreement never truly disappeared. Every year afterward, from 1987 until their graduation in 1990, Tate quietly tried again. At the beginning of each academic year, he would approach Noah with an envelope containing a check for tuition. Every year, Noah gently pushed it back. No, Tate. You don't have to. I know I don't have to, Tate would reply. I want to. And I appreciate that. But my answer is still no. The conversation repeated itself so often that both of them could practically recite the other's lines. One autumn afternoon, after Noah had declined the check yet again, Tate frowned. I don't understand. Noah looked at him patiently. I know you don't. You know I'd do anything for you. I do. So why won't you let me do this? Noah smiled gently. Because accepting help is my choice. I accepted Mark's help because I wanted to. If I ever accept yours, I want it to be because I choose to, not because I feel pressured into it. He rested a hand on Tate's shoulder. I need you to understand that the people who care about me aren't competing with each other. Mark can help me. You can help me. My family can help me. Those things can all be true at the same time. Tate looked unconvinced. He crossed his arms, his lips pressing into a familiar pout. Noah couldn't help smiling. You're pouting again. I'm not. You absolutely are. Tate let out an exasperated huff and gave the floor an irritated stomp with his foot. I still don't like it. I know. But I'm trying to teach you something. Tate raised an eyebrow. And what's that? Noah answered softly. That letting other people help me doesn't mean you've become any less important to me. For a moment Tate's expression softened. He still didn't like the answer. He still wished Noah had accepted every check he had ever offered. But beneath all of his frustration, he understood what Noah was trying to say, even if accepting it would take much longer than either of them expected. The next 3 years at Brown were a strange, intense, and amazing chapter. Tate gradually warmed to Noah's friends, but always with that careful, deliberate distance. He never called them his own, only ever referring to them as Noah's friends. There was a constant boundary he enforced, unspoken but absolute: visitors to the dorm not allowed. Any sleepover, even a casual one with Noah's friends, required Tate to attend, positioning himself as a silent, controlling sentinel in every corner. He moved through those years with the same obsessive precision he had always shown, present, aware, and in control, while Noah's friends slowly accepted the unspoken rules, marveling at the magnetic, unpredictable, and possessive man who dominated every aspect of Noah's life. No matter where we were, our dorm or a friend's apartment for a sleepover, Tate would drape himself over me like a human blanket, arms and legs entwined, body pressing down with possessive weight, leaving no space to escape. Friends visiting for sleepovers would pause awkwardly, whispering among themselves, unsure how to react, while Tate's eyes tracked every movement. It wasn't just intimacy, it was ownership, obsession, and protection, a constant reminder that wherever I was, he was there too. Noah exhaled, leaning into Tate's weight, warmth, and pressure. That's him. Constant, obsessive, controlling, blanket body, arms, legs, always claiming me, always. By the time sophomore year rolled around, Noah had settled into a rhythm at Brown. The dorm room felt familiar, the campus less intimidating, and his friends had become something like a family. Anna, Jack, Bree, Andrew, and Susie were constants, grounding him in ways that Tate never could. Andrew, meanwhile, remained an observer at the edges of their circle, his gaze always flicking toward Tate in ways that made Noah uneasy. It was a Saturday afternoon when the 5 of them congregated in Noah's dorm room, sprawled across mismatched furniture. Anna was sketching furiously in her notebook. Jack was strumming a guitar with one hand and scrolling on his phone with the other. Susie was quietly rearranging paints, and Andrew was leaning back in a chair, eyes narrow, lips pressed in that thin line of concentration that meant he was thinking too much. I don't know why anyone would ever take art seriously if they can't stay up all night making something terrible and calling it genius, Anna said, flicking a pencil at Noah. I call that a typical Tuesday night, Noah said with a small grin, adjusting the sketchbook on his lap. Jack laughed. You've got a point, although my terrible art tends to get compliments from strangers, so I'd say I'm winning. Winning at mediocrity, maybe, Susie said, smirking without looking up. Andrew finally spoke, voice quiet but precise, cutting through the chatter. You know, someone like Tate, he'd probably hate this entire setup. Noah froze slightly at the name. He could feel the familiar knot in his stomach, that mix of desire, fear, and irritation that had shadowed him for years. Why do you say that? He asked casually, pretending he wasn't already tense. Andrew leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Tate doesn't tolerate randomness. He doesn't tolerate anyone else getting attention. It's like patterns. He observes, he controls, he gets restless when there's no order. He'd probably hate that you all exist in your little chaos bubble. Anna raised an eyebrow. Is this about him or about you? Both, Noah muttered, staring down at his sketchbook. He wasn't ready to articulate all the tension he carried with him, not here, not now. Jack nudged him. Don't get mopey, man, it's not worth it. But it was worth it. Tate's presence, whether physical or imagined, had a gravitational pull that Noah had never been able to resist. And Andrew, ever perceptive, ever observant, noticed it, probably cataloging every reaction, every twitch, every glance. A few minutes later, the topic drifted to their weekend plans. I'm heading to the studio tonight, Anna said. Noah, you in? I'll come, Noah said, shrugging. I've got a few ideas I want to sketch out. Susie smiled, we'll critique later, don't chicken out. Andrew tilted his head, I'll be there too, I want to see the dynamics, patterns, group psychology. Noah raised an eyebrow, nudging Andrew. You're going to psychoanalyze us while we paint. Andrew smiled faintly, not us specifically, Tate's influence, you notice it right, he's always there in the background even if he's not physically present, you can't deny the patterns. Noah sighed, I notice it, I try not to though, he doesn't get to control my life. Jack laughed, control, dude, you're acting like he's in the room with you right now. Sometimes it feels like he is, Noah admitted quietly. Anna reached over and patted his hand. Then maybe it's a good thing you've got us, you've got friends who aren't obsessed with you, who actually want you around. The warmth of that gesture stayed with Noah long after their conversation drifted to other topics. And yet, even as he laughed with them, the shadow of Tate remained, invisible but oppressive. He could almost feel the way Tate would notice, would care, would spiral at the idea that Noah had this little network of people who grounded him. Andrew's gaze lingered on Tate's absence more than on Noah. Watch him this year, Andrew muttered under his breath. He'll be reactive, obsessed, dangerous in subtle ways. Noah frowned. Andrew, you're obsessed with him already. I'm not, Andrew said, voice tight. I study patterns, you'll see. By the end of the year you'll notice the subtle ways he impacts everything you do, the way you all move around him. Noah leaned back in his chair, looking around at his friends. Anna sketching, Jack strumming, Susie arranging paints, Andrew watching, and thought, maybe Tate isn't the only force in my life anymore, maybe I'm not powerless, maybe I've got people who see, who understand, who care. He didn't know then how much Tate's shadow would loom over the rest of the year, how jealousy would spike in ways Noah couldn't control, how obsession could twist the tiniest actions into storms. But he knew this. He had his friends, and for the first time in years he felt like he could navigate both the storm and the calm. Junior year arrived like a storm disguised as routine. The campus had settled into its rhythm and Noah had found his place within it. Anna, Jack, and Susie were constants, their friendship a tether in the unpredictable chaos of college life. Andrew, ever watchful, remained the silent observer, often staring at Tate in ways that unsettled Noah more than he liked to admit. It was a Friday afternoon when the group gathered in the small art studio that had become their unofficial headquarters. The smell of paint and turpentine filled the air. Noah set up his easel, glancing at the familiar faces around him. Okay, Anna said, leaning back against a table, we need to finish this collaboration by next week or we're going to look like amateurs at the showcase. She shot Noah a pointed look. You ready to contribute or are you going to stand there looking broody again? Noah chuckled, I'm ready, just don't yell if I screw it up. Jack grinned, broody is your default setting, you should embrace it. Susie rolled her eyes. Focus, you guys. Noah, don't forget your colors this time, last week's mess is still haunting me. Andrew leaned forward, fingers steepled, his gaze kept flicking to the window, the direction of the dorms. He's here, he said softly. Noah followed his eyes, of course, Tate, always Tate. Even if he wasn't physically present, Andrew could sense it. He had trained himself to see the patterns of obsession and influence, and Tate's presence, even imagined, was impossible to ignore. Noah's stomach tightened. Andrew, he's not even here yet. I know, Andrew said, eyes narrowing. But you feel it, you can't ignore it, look at your posture, the tension in your hands, he's already influencing the way you interact with everyone. Anna frowned. Seriously, can we not make this about Tate for 5 minutes? Noah forced a laugh. Sorry, he just has a way of making himself felt even when he's not in the room. Jack smirked. Sounds like someone's obsessed. No, Noah said quickly, not obsessed, just aware. Andrew's gaze was sharp. Careful. Awareness can turn into obsession when you're not careful. Patterns, remember. Noah shook his head, trying to focus on the canvas in front of him. He began sketching the lines of a new piece, letting his pencil translate his tension into something tangible. The studio became a battlefield of color and shape, each stroke a small assertion of control in a world where Tate always seemed to claim it first. The conversation drifted to lighter topics. Anna recounted a disastrous life drawing session. Jack teased Susie about her obsession with perfect brush strokes. Andrew, true to form, analyzed them all under the guise of casual commentary, while Noah smiled politely but kept one eye on the window, imagining Tate standing there, watching, waiting. Hours later, after the others had left for dinner, Andrew lingered behind. "Noah," he said, lowering his voice, "I want you to understand something about Tate." Noah paused, brush in hand. "I already know he's complicated." "No, listen," Andrew said, leaning against the table. "He's more than complicated. He's obsessive, territorial, and hyper-focused. The way he watches you, even when he's not around, it's not normal. He's the center of your emotional stability if you let him control your thoughts." Noah nodded, his chest tight. "I know, I feel it every day." Andrew's eyes flicked to the window again, almost as if he could sense Tate's invisible gaze. "And you have to recognize how much he's already affecting you. Every reaction, every decision, you don't even realize how much it's shaped by him." Noah exhaled slowly. "That's why I have you guys," he said, gesturing toward the empty room, imagining Anna, Jack, and Susie. "They keep me grounded, they remind me there's a world outside Tate." Andrew nodded, almost approvingly. "Good, keep your friends close. Patterns are easier to manage when you're not alone." Noah smiled faintly. "Yeah, patterns, that's one way to put it." But even as he said it, he felt Tate's presence pressing in at the edges of his awareness. It was in the imaginary line of his jaw, the weight of his chest, the tightening of his stomach. Tate wasn't there, and yet he always was. That night, Noah lay in bed, replaying Andrew's words, thinking of Anna's laughter, Jack's and Bree's teasing, and Susie's quiet insight. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a shadow lingered, the knowledge that Tate would always be a storm he had to navigate, a constant that would test him in ways no canvas or relationship ever could. He clenched his fists lightly. He had friends, he had art, he had boundaries he was slowly learning to enforce, and maybe, just maybe, he could survive Tate's obsession without losing himself entirely. Senior year arrived like an unannounced tide, dragging everything with it, the pressure of graduation, the weight of relationships, and the undercurrent of tension that had followed Noah for years. The campus, though familiar, now seemed to hum with anticipation, every hallway and studio brimming with endings and beginnings. Noah sat cross-legged on the dorm room floor, sketchbook open, as Susie, Anna, and Jack crowded around him. Susie held a palette of paints, inspecting his latest work. "Honestly," Susie said, squinting at the page, "this is the best piece you've done all year. It actually looks free, like you're not trying to control everything." Noah smiled, feeling a rare warmth. "I guess I'm finally learning that not everything has to be perfect." Anna leaned back, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Or maybe you finally learned not to let certain people control your canvas, or your life." Her glance flicked toward the dorm door as if she could sense the shadow he carried. Jack smirked, teasing. "Ooh, dropping cryptic life lessons in between brush strokes, this is new." Noah shook his head, grinning. "You guys don't get it. Some people just complicate everything, no matter how simple it should be." Susie tilted her head. "We get it, it's Tate, isn't it?" Noah froze slightly, heart tightening. "Maybe." Just then, Andrew appeared in the doorway, leaning casually but with that sharp intensity that always made Noah feel under scrutiny. His gaze, as usual, drifted past the group to an empty spot in the room, as if he could see Tate there even when he wasn't. Susie saw a hidden canvas on a stand near the wall. "What's this, Noah?" Noah's hands darted toward the canvas, trying to cover it quickly, cheeks burning with embarrassment. No, you can't see that," he stammered, tugging at the edges as if he could make it disappear, but Susie was faster. With a sly grin, she grabbed the corner of the painting and yanked it free from his hands, revealing the full nude portrait of Tate. "Something you want to share with us, Noah?" she teased, holding it up for everyone to see, eyes sparkling with mischief. Noah froze, heat rushing to his face, and muttered, It's not supposed to be seen." Bree leaned closer, voice full of awe. "Not supposed to be seen? Noah, we are seeing it, and wow, intense, you actually drew him, nude like this." Noah swallowed hard, glancing down at his shoes. "Yeah, it's private. I didn't think anyone would ever see it." Susie smirked, stepping even closer, teasing, "Private? Noah, you've captured him perfectly. The body, the expression, it's like he's right here in the room." Jack muttered under his breath, shaking his head. "Bold, insane, and kind of brilliant. That's full-on obsession right there." Anna leaned forward, whispering softly, eyes scanning every line. It's more than just a nude, you've captured him, the intensity, the control, the obsession, no wonder you're embarrassed. Noah buried his face in his hands, cheeks flushing hotter. Yeah, it's private, about him, not for anyone else to see. Andrew observed quietly, calm and analytical. It's revealing, yes, but it shows how you see him, possessive, intense and commanding. You've captured not just the body but the psychological presence. That's why it's so striking. Bree whispered, half laughing, half awed, intense and awkward for Noah completely. But wow, the level of detail, the tension, the intensity, it's like Tate could step out of the canvas. Susie leaned in, teasing softly, poor Noah, caught between embarrassment and pride. But honestly, it's brilliant. You've captured him completely, body, aura and all. Noah exhaled slowly, still flushed, voice quiet but firm. Yeah, it's him, every line, every shadow. That's Tate, private, intense, obsessive, and this is my way of keeping him near, even in paint. Susie leaned in close to Noah, eyes sparkling with mischief, and whispered loudly enough for the others to hear. So, is Tate 9 inches like the painting claims? Bree and Anna immediately burst into giggles, hands covering their mouths as they tried, and failed, to stifle their laughter. Bree whispered between laughs, oh my God, Susie, you did not just ask that. Anna shook her head, giggling. Noah, answer her, come on, spill. Noah's face turned crimson and he stammered, fumbling for words, that's, private. Susie smirked, still teasing, private, huh, come on, don't be shy, we're just curious. Bree, still giggling, nudged Noah, whispering, oh Noah, this is classic, you're all flustered and embarrassed and we're dying over here. Jack muttered under his breath, shaking his head, she's relentless, and this is exactly why Noah is turning bright red, obscene curiosity at its finest. Andrew, calm as ever, added quietly, it's a question meant to provoke. The giggles indicate the social dynamic, embarrassment as entertainment. Noah's reaction is natural given the context and his private knowledge of Tate. Noah groaned softly, burying his face in his hands, muttering, yeah, private, really private. Tate is going to make things interesting this year, Andrew said quietly, voice low enough that only Noah heard. I can already feel it, every interaction you'll notice it, and it's going to be a test of your boundaries. Noah sighed, I'm ready for it, I have to be. Before anyone could respond, the phone rang. Noah froze for a second, recognizing the number instantly. Mark. Go ahead, Anna whispered, noticing his hesitation. Take it, you've got this. Noah answered, his voice careful. Hello. Hey Noah, Mark's voice was warm, teasing, but with an undercurrent of certainty. I was just in town and thought I'd drop by, you free for a coffee? Noah's stomach flipped. Yeah, I can do that. The friends exchanged subtle glances. Anna's eyes were sharp but supportive. Jack shrugged, pretending casualness, but his smirk betrayed curiosity. Susie's lips pressed into a thin line, protective, wary. Half an hour later, Mark appeared in the dorm lobby, casual and confident. Noah led him to a small cafe nearby, while the others lingered in the studio, keeping an eye on the situation without intruding. As they sat across from each other, Mark's presence was magnetic, grounding. Noah felt the difference immediately. There was no storm here, no obsessive tension, no shadowed jealousy. Just two people conversing, laughing lightly, talking about art, life, and the absurdities of senior year. Back in the dorm, Andrew's eyes never left the door. His gaze was intense, analytical, following the dynamics even from a distance. Watch him, Andrew muttered under his breath to no one in particular. Every word, every gesture, Tate will notice, he will spiral. Noah returned later, cheeks flushed with warmth from the conversation, sketches scribbled with Mark's input still fresh in his mind. He found his friends in the dorm. Did it go well? Susie asked, eyes narrowing in curiosity. Better than I expected, Noah admitted, smiling faintly. Mark's, he's easy to be around. Anna smirked, easy to be around, huh? Sounds like trouble for someone we all know. Noah's smile faltered slightly, thinking of Tate. The tension in his chest reminded him that freedom was never simple with Tate lurking in the background, whether physically present or emotionally looming. Andrew, leaning against the wall silently, finally spoke, voice low. Mark's presence is going to force a reckoning. Tate will feel it, and he will act, obsessively, jealously, watch for patterns. He always gives himself away. Noah nodded, biting his lip. I know, but I also have you guys, and that counts for a lot more than fear of him. Jack laughed. Finally, some confidence. About time you learned to use the team, man. Susie added softly, it's more than that. It's about knowing you're allowed to have more than one kind of support: friends, mentors, people you trust, without it being a betrayal. That's what matters. And yet, even as they spoke, Noah felt the invisible weight of Tate pressing against the edges of his mind, pushing him to act, to react, to internalize the obsessive tension that had always defined their relationship. Mark's presence was a balm, but also a spark, one that could ignite chaos if Tate ever knew the depth of their interaction. Noah leaned back, letting his friends' voices anchor him. He knew that senior year would demand everything: friendship, patience, strategy, and courage. He also knew that Tate would continue to test him, probe him, and push him toward emotional limits. But for the first time in years, Noah felt ready. With Anna, Susie, Jack, Bree, and even Andrew watching and supporting him, he could navigate both the storms of obsession and the freedom of connection. And perhaps, just perhaps, he could emerge not only unbroken but stronger, having learned how to live fully, even under the shadow of Tate. The years at Brown pass faster than I ever expected them to. Like time itself knows I'm not walking them alone. Tate is there for all of it. That's the constant, the anchor. I became valedictorian almost by accident, by working too hard, by needing something that was mine, by pouring myself into achievement when my heart didn't know where else to go. A month before our final college classes ended, Mark agreed to sit for a portrait. Like Tate's portrait before it, the painting was done in a tasteful nude style as part of my figure studies. I decided to enter the annual campus art exhibition. One of the school's patrons had announced a $5,000 prize for the best painting in the show. I never expected to win. More than 1,000 paintings had been submitted, and any student, not just art majors, could enter up to 5 pieces. Somehow Susie convinced me to submit 3. The first was my portrait of Tate. The second was my portrait of Mark. The third was a detailed charcoal drawing of a raccoon that had wandered behind the dorm dumpsters during my sophomore year. It had become one of my favorite sketches because of its lifelike expression. I was surprised when Tate actually found the time to attend the exhibition. Art galleries weren't his kind of place. He stopped in front of his own portrait first. His nose wrinkled with obvious discomfort, and he looked away after only a few seconds, clearly embarrassed to see himself displayed on a gallery wall. Then he noticed Mark's portrait. Tate froze. The color drained from his face as his eyes locked onto the painting. His jaw tightened, and his hands slowly curled into fists at his sides. Whatever emotion had been simmering beneath the surface all evening erupted in an instant. Noah had seen Tate irritated before. He had never seen him look this furious. Tate spun on his heels and stormed out of the art gallery. The front door slammed with such force that several paintings hanging near the entrance rattled against the walls. For a moment the entire gallery fell silent. Then the whispers began. Susie exchanged a puzzled look with Anna and Jack. What was that about? Anna whispered. I've never seen Tate leave that fast, Jack said. Susie glanced toward Noah, who was still staring at the door Tate had just disappeared through. I don't think it had anything to do with the gallery. The three of them quietly speculated among themselves, stifling the occasional giggle as they tried to guess what had upset Tate so badly. None of them came close to the truth. Noah remained at the exhibition until nearly 11 o'clock that night. Earlier that afternoon, he had told Tate the showing would run late so he wouldn't be home at his usual time of 9. By the time Noah finally unlocked the front door to the mansion, the house was eerily quiet. He set his keys on the entry table and listened. Nothing. The silence made his stomach tighten. After the way Tate had stormed out of the gallery, Noah couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Are you okay? Noah asked softly. He walked over to the bed and gently rested a hand on Tate's shoulder, even though Tate was completely hidden beneath the duvet. The instant Noah touched him, Tate's entire body flinched away. Noah slowly withdrew his hand. I just wanted to let you know they'll be announcing the winner of the art competition at graduation in a few weeks. Silence. I'm sorry if Mark's portrait hurt your feelings. Beneath the blanket, Tate's shoulders tensed again. We weren't alone when I painted him, if that makes you feel any better. Susie was there the entire time, nothing happened. Noah hesitated before continuing. I know we're adults and I guess something could have happened if we'd wanted it to, but it didn't, it was just a portrait. Tate remained motionless. You don't have anything to be jealous about, Noah said quietly. Mark isn't taking me away from you. Noah sat on the edge of the bed. After graduation, we're all just going back to Los Angeles and getting on with our lives. That hasn't changed. Still no answer. The silence hurt more than an argument would have. Noah searched for some sign that Tate had heard him, a movement, a sigh, anything, but Tate stayed curled beneath the duvet, refusing to look at him. For the first time in years, Noah realized he had no idea what Tate was thinking. Tate eventually got over it within a week, though that didn't mean his sour mood disappeared overnight. Every now and then, Noah would catch him pouting or scowling whenever Mark's name came up or whenever he walked past the portraits still displayed in the student gallery. It was subtle but unmistakable. Tate never apologized for the way he'd stormed out of the exhibition, and Noah never brought it up again. Instead, the tension slowly dissolved with time, settling back into the familiar rhythm of their friendship. By the time graduation arrived a few weeks later, Tate had mostly returned to his usual stoic self. Mostly. Every so often, Noah would still catch him glaring at Mark for no apparent reason before looking away as if nothing had happened. A week before graduation, Andrew cornered Noah at the cafeteria table, leaning in like he was about to uncover some state secret. So, spill it, Andrew said, eyes practically glowing. Everything about Tate, his relationship history, his family, his quirks, his favorite toothpaste, I want it all. Noah raised an eyebrow, smirking. Whoa, slow down, you sure you're ready for that much dangerous information? Andrew scoffed, I've been ready, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. When the valedictorian acceptance letter comes, I read it twice just to be sure I'm not hallucinating. Tate reads my face before I even speak. You got it, he says, already grinning. I nod, and then he's on his feet, pulling me into one of his bone-crushing hugs, spinning me once like I weigh nothing. I knew it, he keeps saying, I knew you would. Andrew had a peculiar fascination with Tate. It wasn't romantic, sexual, or anything like that. As a graduate student preparing for a career in psychology, Andrew simply viewed Tate as the most psychologically complex person he had ever met. Over time, I told Andrew many stories about Tate and the strange, often confusing experiences we'd shared growing up. Then I made a mistake. Without thinking, I let two secrets slip, things I had promised Tate I would never tell another living soul. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Andrew didn't say anything right away. Instead, he stared silently at Tate the next time he saw him. The curiosity that had once filled Andrew's eyes was gone. In its place was something far heavier. Pity. For the first time, Andrew wasn't looking at Tate as an intriguing psychological puzzle. He was looking at him as someone carrying a burden no one should have to bear. In the weeks leading up to graduation, our dorm room turns into a shrine to my accomplishment. Honor cords draped over the chair, my cap perched on the desk. The gown hanging from the closet door is like it's waiting for its cue. I practice walking around in it mostly to get used to the weight, but also because Tate makes a whole production out of it. He sprawls on his bed like he's front row at a show, chin in his hand. Okay, he says seriously, walk again, slower this time. I roll my eyes but do it anyway, packing across the room, the honors brushing against my chest. He watches me like I'm doing something extraordinary, like I'm not just the same kid who used to climb through his window at midnight. Damn, he says softly, you look unreal. That word unreal lands somewhere deep. My valedictorian speech takes months to get right. I rewrite it obsessively. Every sentence feels too big or too small, like it's carrying the weight of more than just me. I practice it out loud in the room, packing, gesturing, stopping to scribble notes. Tate is my audience every single time. He never interrupts, never checks his phone. He sits there, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on me as the rest of the world has narrowed to my voice. Sometimes he claps when I finish. Sometimes he just nods thoughtful and says, "That part right there, that's the one." When I stumble over a line, he waits patiently. When I get frustrated, he tells me to breathe. When I doubt myself, he looks genuinely confused, like the idea that I wouldn't be brilliant doesn't compute. "You're doing something that matters," he tells me one night when I'm spiraling. "You always do." On graduation day, when I finally step into the gown for real, Tate stands there quietly for a moment, just taking me in. Then he straightens my collar with careful hands, adjusts the cords so they sit just right. His fingers linger on my shoulder, grounding. "I'm proud of you," he says, voice low, earnest. "I've always been proud of you." I smile at him, heart tight and full all at once. Mark is there at the graduation ceremony, a familiar face in the crowd, smiling when he catches my eye. I feel a small, complicated warmth at seeing him, history, comfort, a chapter that mattered even if it never defined me. Tate sits beside me, close enough that our shoulders touch. When the applause swells and my name echoes through the speakers, I reach for his hand without thinking. He squeezes back immediately, grounding, solid. I lean toward him just enough to murmur, "It's okay, not everything, just enough, don't worry, I'm here." The auditorium buzzed with hundreds of conversations, laughter, and the rustle of graduation gowns. Rows upon rows of graduates sat shoulder to shoulder, their black robes forming a sea of color broken only by bright tassels and honor cords. Beyond them sat proud parents, grandparents, siblings, professors, alumni, donors, and friends who had gathered to celebrate the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Faculty members in colorful academic regalia chatted quietly near the stage while photographers wandered the aisles, capturing nervous smiles and excited embraces. Noah adjusted the collar of his graduation gown. He wasn't nervous. At least that was what he kept telling himself. The speech, folded neatly inside his pocket, suddenly felt as heavy as a brick. "You've got this." Susie leaned over from the seat beside him. She wore the same black gown, although hers was decorated with cords recognizing her academic achievements. "You've practiced it enough times to give it in your sleep." "I know," Noah replied with a small laugh. "It's just, there are a lot more people here than I imagined." Anna smiled from Noah's other side. "Only about 3,000. Noah's eyes widened. "You're joking." "No." Jack leaned forward from the row behind them. "Relax, if you pass out, at least you'll become part of graduation history." Susie elbowed him. "Very helpful." Jack shrugged. "I'm just trying to lower expectations." The group laughed. Immediately, some of Noah's anxiety disappeared. These people had become his family over the last 4 years. Late-night study sessions. Coffee-fueled mornings before impossible exams. Group projects that somehow always ended with Jack doing everything at the last minute. Movie nights. Road trips. Arguments. Celebrations. Countless dinners together. It was impossible to imagine that, in a few short hours, everyone would begin scattering across the country to chase careers, graduate schools, and dreams that had once seemed impossibly far away. A hush slowly spread across the auditorium. The orchestra began playing the processional. One by one, faculty members walked onto the stage to warm applause. The dean followed. Department chairs. Distinguished guests. Members of the university's board. Finally, the university president approached the podium. "Good afternoon." The microphone carried his voice effortlessly throughout the auditorium. "Welcome to today's commencement ceremony." Noah listened politely, though only fragments of the welcome speech registered in his mind. His attention wandered into the audience. Tate's parents sat near the center. His mother smiled proudly the moment she noticed him looking. His father gave an enthusiastic thumbs up. Noah chuckled softly. Several rows behind them sat Mark. Unlike nearly everyone else in attendance, Mark looked completely relaxed. He sat with one leg crossed over the other, casually applauding between speeches as though he attended commencement ceremonies every weekend. When Mark noticed Noah looking, he grinned. He raised both thumbs. Noah couldn't help smiling back. Then his eyes drifted farther across the auditorium. Near one of the side aisles sat Tate. Unlike everyone around him, Tate wasn't chatting. He wasn't smiling. He simply sat with perfect posture, hands folded in his lap, quietly observing the ceremony. His expression was unreadable. As if sensing Noah's gaze, Tate looked up. For a brief second their eyes met. Tate gave the smallest nod imaginable. To anyone else, it would have looked meaningless. To Noah it meant everything. It was Tate's way of saying, "Go do what you came here to do." Noah returned the nod. The introductions continued. Degrees awarded. Faculty recognized. Scholarships announced. Honor societies acknowledged. Nearly an hour passed before the university president returned to the microphone. "And now," he said, smiling toward the graduates, "it is my pleasure to introduce this year's valedictorian." A wave of applause swept through the auditorium. Noah. The applause grew louder as Noah's name echoed through the speakers. Jack gave him a playful shove. "Go make us look smart." Susie squeezed his arm. "We're proud of you." Anna smiled warmly. "You've earned this." Noah stood. His heartbeat quickened. He slowly climbed the steps leading to the stage. Each footstep seemed louder than the last. He shook hands with the university president. Then with the dean. Finally, he stepped behind the polished wooden podium. For the first time, he truly saw the audience. Thousands of faces looked back at him. Graduates waiting for one final memory. Parents are trying not to cry. Professors who had spent years shaping the students seated before them. Families who had sacrificed so much just to see this day arrive. Friends. Mentors. Strangers. People whose lives had crossed paths for only a moment, yet who had all become part of the same remarkable story. Noah rested both hands on the podium. He took one slow breath. Then another. The nervousness he'd felt moments earlier quietly faded. A calm settled over him. This wasn't just another speech. It was a thank you. A goodbye. And the beginning of whatever came next. His eyes wandered across the audience one final time. They landed on Mark. Mark cupped his hands around his mouth and let out a loud whistle through his teeth. Several graduates laughed. Noah couldn't stop himself from grinning. He shook his head with amused disbelief. "Thanks, Mark," he said into the microphone, prompting even more laughter from the crowd. The room instantly felt warmer. Friendlier. Like a conversation instead of a performance. Noah adjusted the microphone slightly. His smile lingered. "Good afternoon, everyone. To our university president, distinguished faculty, honored guests, proud families, friends, and most importantly, my fellow graduates. Thank you. Standing here today is both the greatest honor and the most surreal moment of my life. 4 years ago, I walked onto this campus carrying 2 suitcases, a backpack, and absolutely no idea what I was doing. If I'm being completely honest, I wasn't even sure I belonged here. I remember staring at the campus map for nearly 20 minutes on my first day because I couldn't find my dorm. I was too embarrassed to ask anyone for directions, so I wandered around pretending I knew exactly where I was going. I probably looked very confident. In reality, I was hopelessly lost. Judging by the laughter I'm hearing, I wasn't the only one. College has a funny way of reminding you that no one has everything figured out. We arrive believing everyone else is smarter, more confident, better prepared. Then the first week happens. Someone oversleeps an exam. Someone gets lost. Someone burns instant noodles. Someone accidentally walks into the wrong classroom and sits through 20 minutes of a lecture before realizing they're learning the wrong subject. Suddenly you realize we're all just trying our best. That realization changes everything. Some of us discovered talents we never knew we had. Some discovered careers we'd never considered. Others discovered passions that changed the direction of our lives forever. And many of us discovered something even more valuable. People. When I think about college, I won't remember every assignment or every exam score. I'll remember the conversations that lasted until 2 in the morning because nobody wanted to leave. I'll remember laughing so hard that coffee nearly came out of someone's nose. I'll remember celebrating victories that felt impossible only months before. I'll remember professors who challenged us because they believed we could do better than we believed ourselves. Most of all, I'll remember the friendships. Those friendships carried us through deadlines, disappointments, heartbreaks, homesickness, and every moment we thought we couldn't make it another week. There is an old saying that people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. College has given us all three. Some people entered our lives only briefly, teaching us lessons we'll never forget. Others stayed long enough to help us become the people sitting here today. And some, I hope we will remain lifelong friends. To my classmates, look around for just a moment. Seriously. Take a second. Look at the people sitting beside you. These are the people who shared your journey. The people who studied with you, encouraged you, competed with you, and celebrated with you. Years from now, you probably won't remember every lecture you attended. But you'll remember these faces. You'll remember the people who made difficult days easier and ordinary days unforgettable. As for me, in a few short days, I'll be heading home to Los Angeles. I don't know exactly what the future holds. Maybe that's the most exciting part. Life doesn't come with a script. None of us knows where we'll be in 5 years. Or 10. Some of us will build careers we haven't even imagined yet. Some will discover dreams we don't know we have. Some will take unexpected detours that turn out to be the best decisions of our lives. Wherever life takes us, I hope we keep the curiosity that brought us here. I hope we never stop asking questions. Never stop learning. Never stop growing. And never become so busy chasing success that we forget the people who helped us reach it. Diplomas open doors. Character determines what we do once we walk through them. Our generation has inherited extraordinary challenges. But we've also inherited extraordinary opportunities. We have the chance to build communities that are kinder, workplaces that are fairer, and futures that are brighter than the ones we imagined when we first stepped onto this campus. I believe we're ready. Not because we know everything, but because we've learned how to keep learning. Not because we've never failed, but because we've learned how to stand back up. That, to me, is what education really means. It isn't just collecting facts. It's becoming someone who never stops growing. Noah paused and looked out over the auditorium. For a few moments he simply smiled. I've spent the last several minutes talking about classes, friendships, and the future, but before I finish, there are a couple of people I need to thank personally. The audience grew quiet. My family has supported me every step of the way. They encouraged me when I doubted myself, celebrated my successes, and reminded me that my worth was never measured by a grade on a piece of paper. I wouldn't be standing here without them. Applause filled the auditorium. Noah smiled gratefully before continuing. There is someone else I'd like to recognize today. His eyes searched the audience until they found Mark. Mark, I know you're going to hate this. Several people chuckled. So I'm going to ask everyone to help me embarrass him. The laughter grew louder. Mark lowered his head and laughed, already suspecting what was coming. No, Mark called out with a grin, don't do it. Oh, I'm absolutely doing it. The audience laughed again. Mark, would you please stand up? Mark remained seated, shaking his head. Noah. Come on. Mark crossed his arms dramatically. I'm invisible. No, you're stubborn. More laughter echoed through the auditorium. Finally, Noah pointed toward him. Everybody, I think we should encourage him. Hundreds of people began clapping. The applause spread across the auditorium until nearly everyone had joined in. Realizing he had lost, Mark sighed theatrically before rising to his feet. There he is, Noah said, smiling. The applause continued. Most of you don't know Mark, but I do. He has a habit of helping people without asking for recognition. He listens before he speaks. He believes in encouraging people to chase their dreams, even when those dreams seem impossible. Noah's expression softened. A long time ago, when I wasn't sure how I was going to pay for college, Mark quietly stepped in. A murmur swept through the audience. He paid for my first year of tuition. The auditorium became completely silent. He never asked for anything in return. He never wanted anyone to know. He simply believed in me before I fully believed in myself. Noah looked directly at Mark. Tate glared at Mark. I don't think I've ever properly thanked you. So today, in front of everyone, I want to thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your faith in me. And thank you for inspiring me to pursue the future I wanted instead of settling for the future I thought I deserved. Mark looked genuinely embarrassed. He rubbed the back of his neck and smiled awkwardly as people began applauding once more. The applause quickly grew louder. Then someone stood. Another person followed. Within seconds, the entire auditorium was on its feet. A standing ovation. Mark shook his head with a sheepish laugh, gesturing for everyone to sit down, but the applause only continued. Noah smiled. I warned you this would happen. Even several professors laughed. Eventually, the applause began to fade, and everyone returned to their seats. Mark remained standing for one more moment before quietly sitting down again, still blushing from the unexpected attention. Noah took a slow breath. There is one more person I'd like to thank. His eyes drifted across the audience until they settled on Tate. Tate. The single word caught Tate by surprise. He hadn't expected his name to be mentioned. Noah smiled warmly. You've been one of the closest buddies anyone could ever ask for. We've shared more memories than I could possibly fit into one speech. You've been there during some of the happiest moments of my life, and you've stood beside me during some of the hardest. Friendship isn't measured by grand speeches or dramatic moments. It's measured by showing up. And somehow you've always managed to do that. So thank you. For your loyalty. For your honesty. And for being my companion through life. The audience applauded once again. Tate gave a small nod in acknowledgement. Outwardly, his expression remained as stoic as ever. Inside, however, his emotions were anything but calm. Hearing Noah thank Mark first, and watching an entire auditorium rise to celebrate him, left an uncomfortable knot in Tate's chest. He knew Mark deserved the recognition. He even applauded politely. But he couldn't stop himself from pouting. His lips pressed into a thin line as he looked away from the stage. For just a fleeting moment, jealousy crept across his face before he buried it beneath his usual impassive expression. Noah, still standing at the podium, never noticed. He simply smiled at his classmates, grateful for the people who had shaped his journey and hopeful for the future that awaited them all. The applause lingered for several moments before gradually fading into a respectful silence. Noah rested both hands on the podium. He looked across the auditorium one final time. The room that had once seemed impossibly large now felt surprisingly intimate. Thousands of faces stared back at him, yet he no longer saw a crowd. He saw memories. He saw the nervous freshmen they had all once been. He saw classmates who had become lifelong friends. He saw professors who had challenged them, encouraged them, and refused to let them settle for less than their best. He saw parents whose sacrifices had made this day possible. Most of all, he saw people standing at the edge of an entirely new chapter. He smiled. I'll leave you with one final thought. The room grew perfectly still. When we first arrived here, many of us believed college was about finding the right major, earning the right grades, or preparing for the right career. He paused. I think we were only half right. College certainly teaches us facts. It teaches us how to solve problems. It teaches us how to think critically. But the greatest lessons don't come from textbooks. They come from people. They come from roommates who become family. From professors who refuse to let us quit. From classmates who become our biggest supporters. And from friends who quietly change our lives without ever realizing they've done it. Noah glanced around the audience. Years from now, none of us will remember every exam score. But we'll remember laughing until midnight in the dorms. We'll remember the impossible group projects. We'll remember celebrating after our last final. We'll remember comforting one another after disappointments. We'll remember the people who walked beside us. I hope every one of you leaves here today with confidence. Not confidence that you'll always know the answers, but confidence that you'll figure them out. I hope you chase careers that excite you. I hope you build lives that make you proud. I hope you measure success not only by promotions, awards, or salaries, but by kindness, integrity, and the difference you make in other people's lives. He smiled toward his classmates. And if life doesn't go according to plan? A few graduates laughed knowingly. Remember that almost nobody's life does. The detours often become the best parts of the journey. So don't be afraid of changing direction. Don't be afraid of starting over. And never be afraid to ask for help. Noah took a slow breath. In a few days, I'll be returning home to Los Angeles. I don't know exactly what waits for me there. I don't know where my career will lead. I don't know which dreams will come true and which ones will change. But for the first time in my life, I'm excited not knowing. Because this university has given me something more valuable than certainty. It has given me confidence. It has given me friendships. It has given me memories that I'll carry for the rest of my life. And for that, I'll always be grateful. He looked across the graduates one last time. To the class of 1990. Congratulations. We made it. The auditorium erupted. Graduates leaped to their feet. Parents cheered. Faculty applauded. The standing ovation rolled through the room like a wave. Noah stepped away from the podium, overwhelmed by the response. The university president met him with a broad smile and a firm handshake. Outstanding, he whispered. The dean nodded in agreement. You represented this class beautifully. Noah thanked them before returning to his seat among his classmates. As soon as he sat down, Susie threw her arms around him. You were incredible. Anna hugged him next. I cried 3 times. You cry during commercials, Jack teased. I do not. You absolutely do. The 4 of them laughed. When the ceremony finally concluded, graduates flooded the auditorium floor. Caps flew into the air. Families rushed forward with flowers, balloons, and cameras. Everywhere Noah looked, people were hugging, laughing, and taking photographs. Talia, Terrence, Joey, Tim, and Mark reached Noah first. His surrogate mother wrapped him in a tight embrace. We're so proud of you. His father shook his hand before pulling him into a hug anyway. I don't think I could have written a better speech myself. I've heard your speeches, Noah joked. They usually involve barbecue. His father laughed. They're motivational. They're hungry. Nearby, Mark was trying to slip quietly toward the exit. He had endured enough attention for one day. Unfortunately for him, Noah spotted him. There he is. Mark looked over. Oh no. Too late. Noah hurried through the crowd and embraced him. Thank you, Noah said sincerely. You didn't have to say all that. I wanted to. Mark smiled. I only helped because I knew you'd make something of yourself. You did the hard parts. The two shared a warm laugh before Susie insisted on dragging them into several group photographs. Across the auditorium, Tate watched from a distance. His expression remained calm. Reserved. Unreadable. But inside, conflicting emotions churned. He was genuinely proud of Noah. Hearing him speak with such confidence had stirred something deep inside him. Noah had earned every bit of the applause. Every compliment. Every congratulations. Tate believed that without hesitation. Yet each time someone congratulated Mark for the generosity Noah had revealed, that familiar twinge returned. It wasn't that Tate thought Mark didn't deserve the recognition. He did. What stung was how effortlessly Mark seemed to become part of Noah's happiest moments. Tate found himself staring at the floor. His mouth settled into a faint pout before he caught himself. He exhaled quietly. Get over yourself, he thought. Today isn't just about you. When Noah finally noticed Tate standing alone near the edge of the crowd, he excused himself from the others and walked over. There you are. Tate looked up. There I am. So. Noah smiled. What did you think? Tate was silent for a moment. Then in typical Tate fashion he shrugged. It was good. Noah laughed. Good. I expected at least an adjective. Tate considered it. It was very good. Noah grinned. I'll take that. For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. Then Tate held out his hand. Congratulations, valedictorian. Noah ignored the handshake. Instead, he stepped forward and hugged him. Tate stiffened in surprise. After a second, he reluctantly returned the embrace. "I'm proud of you," Tate said quietly, the words barely audible. Noah smiled. "Thanks." The jealousy hadn't vanished completely. It probably never would. But as Tate looked around the bustling auditorium and then back at his oldest friend, he realized that some moments were too important to let envy overshadow them. Today belonged to Noah too. And despite everything, Tate wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Later that night, after the speeches and photos and the way the day keeps insisting on being monumental, I go out, not with Mark, with a group. At first, noise and laughter and the kind of freedom that feels earned. At the bar, I met someone kind, easy. We talk, we laugh. When we leave together, it feels like a door I've chosen to open on my own terms. What happens next is private and quiet and mine, not a story for anyone else, just a moment that belongs to me, finally unburdened by fear or expectation. When it's over, I feel lighter, not transformed, not rewritten, just steady. I don't come back to the dorm that night. Before I go to sleep, I call the room and leave a message on the machine, my voice low and careful. "Hey, it's me, I'm okay, I'm staying out tonight, don't worry, I'm crashing at Mark's hotel room. Remember your promise not to do anything petty, immature, or spontaneous because I'm spending time with him. I'll see you tomorrow." I don't worry, I don't need to. Tate probably knows anyway, he always does. When I hang up, there's no guilt, only a soft certainty. I chose something for myself and I didn't disappear from the choosing. I don't say, "I love you" in the message. I haven't said it in 4 years, not since we left California. The words thinned out somewhere between highways and dorm rooms and unspoken rules. Tate never comments on it. He doesn't seem to notice at all, maybe because he says it enough for both of us, he always has. By 22, Tate has grown up in the ways that matter to the world: grades, responsibility, sexiness, and charm that professors trust, but between us, he's still the same emotionally needy boy I grew up with, still orbiting. Still checking to make sure I'm there, still loving loudly, clumsily, without much self-awareness. I don't mean that unkindly, it's just true. He tells me he loves me when I'm half asleep. He says it when I ace an exam. He says it when I'm quiet for too long. He says it like a fact, like gravity, like something that doesn't need examining. Maybe that's why he doesn't notice my silence. My love changed shape. It learned to be careful. It learned what it could say and what it couldn't survive saying.